Hi guys, and welcome to another episode of Love Learned. This week we have a new guest. We have
Hello.
Elliot with us today, and today we are going to just introduce Elliot and see what he does and who he is and how he does what he does. So,
Yeah.
hi Elliot,
Hello,
how
Dion.
are you?
I'm doing well, thank you.
Let's actually introduce. Let me tell people how I know you. Me and
Okay.
Elliot actually we studied together
Mhm.
to become therapists,
Mhm.
so now we're both qualified therapists.
Mhm. Mhm.
So how has it been for you since graduation?
Um, it's been a breeze. No, it's not been a breeze. It has been an adventure to say the least, and I think I remember what is. Here's one story. When we were training, I remember there was a conversation that we had as like a whole group, and people were saying, "Oh, I can't wait to finish, and I can't wait to get out of there." And I was a bit like, yeah, I can't wait to actually be paid for this. I want to make this my thing, and I made it my thing, and it worked.
Yay.
And so I feel like it was a lovely period, and now we're now we're out in the world and living big. Yeah,
Yes, and you're a huge inspiration for me because I
thank
feel like
you.
seeing you and other people starting your practice made me want to be like, okay, I want to
Mm,
do this too. I
you
want
could
to
do
I can
it.
do this. I can
You
do
could
this. So
do it,
thank you for taking the
Dion.
mantle
Yeah,
and showing
I've
us how
learned
to do
all the
it,
things you shouldn't do. So there
which
you
is
go.
really great. But
Yeah.
so your practice is called whole self therapy.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
tell me about how you came up with
Yeah. Um, I wish there was an inspiration to why I came up with that story. Actually, I didn't. I was actually walking past, I think, the local KFC, and I don't go to KFC, but I was walking past it, and I was like, what should I call my practice? And I just walked by, and that was the name that it right as I walked past the door, and it's whole self therapy. And the reason being was I wanted to work with people to help them to become the most authentic and whole self. And that's kind of my thing, I guess, that I want to do. Whether that's working with some historical issue, whether that's working with like a sex addiction or, feeling you can't be yourself. Whole self therapy is a practice that I created in which you can be yourself. You're fully welcome. The tagline of it is you are fully welcome here.
that?
Whatever that looks like, whatever expression that is, whatever form that takes, you as yourself are welcome in the door. And I have the understanding that you can sit and be who you need to be, and that's good. That's good enough for me, and we'll work together. And it's also kind of a reverse definition for you is that in that I want to be whole. I want to be closer to my most whole self, to maybe a less fractured person and be a more complete, whatever that looks like. So yeah, that's the name. Yeah.
Awesome, awesome. And have you ever felt like you were never your whole self?
Yes, I think there were moments in my life, and there were moments in my life when I felt I couldn't show up, and I learned through very difficult experiences. Yeah, there had been moments when I felt I couldn't be just as I was, and so I learned that I needed to shape shift and become what other people wanted me to be. And ultimately, that meant that there was damages. There were things that were lost in the process, and part of the relearning that I had to do over many years was that I was actually okay, and people had an issue.
Mm.
That was their problem, and they needed to get some help, probably.
Yeah.
And so yeah, that was kind of my general experience. What about you? Have you experienced something like that before?
I think for a long time I was very much stuck into
Mm.
chameleon mode,
Mm.
where I would
Mm.
always try to be fitting into places so I could be liked.
Mm.
Um, so that's manifested in a lot of me helping other people,
Mm.
even though I didn't want to do certain things. I was
Yeah.
perceived as helper. Um, it also manifested in ways like um, showing up to things that weren't really my thing,
Mm.
but because
Mm.
I felt like I needed to be accepted, I needed to be
Mm.
seen, I needed to be in certain places. So kind of spent a lot of time wasting doing things I didn't actually want to do, which also confused me on what I actually did want to do. Because at one point I was just like, what do I actually like? I don't even know. Like, what's going on here?
I don't really like green beans. I'm just eating them.
Because everyone else did.
Yeah.
So it kind of shaped me in that sense. But when I started to feel it in my body, like I'm just getting tired and exhausted with having to keep on showing up the way it kind of I was like, okay, maybe I need to try something different. And it took some time, and it's still taking me lots of time to work out who the whole self is. But we're getting there. We're getting there.
It's a growing process.
Yeah,
I don't think we will ever achieve it until we die. Like,
same here. I honestly think every time I learn something new about myself, I'm like, oh, okay, did know that.
Yeah.
Something around the corner again.
Yeah.
Do you feel like you've learned much about yourself in the last like couple of years, like since graduating?
Yeah, I think I have. It's just like thinking back and going, oh, I think I learned quite a few things. I definitely learned a lot more about what it means to just show up, and you know, if somebody has an issue, well, that's on them. I like to use the analogy sometimes with people that I work with is like the plates of like, you know, like I don't know if you've been to like a buffet or something, like you know, the analogy I have is like an Indian thali. So in Indian culture, you have like this round metal plate or whatever, or like you have a function and you have like a plastic plate, and each one has like a hole for like different things, like curries or rice or bread, or whatever, that kind of thing. And something that uses the analogy of like some people have put their stuff on your plate and it's not yours, and you need to take it off and give it back to them because that's theirs, right? And what you've got on your plate is yours, right? And this is you. Don't take their stuff. And I think quite similarly, I was taking people's green beans, I was taking their food and going, oh yeah, I love this and I hated it. And I was like, what am I doing? And I found it so exhausting, and to the point where I did have to kind of, there was a reckoning I had, which was essentially a nervous breakdown, which was like, oh, I can't do this anymore. And so the learning that I think has come from that is going, you can work as much as you want for other people. You can show up for other people and be what they want you to be. But at the end of the day, part of you will die along with that. You are sacrificing yourself, and there's a pain in that. There's a real grief that comes with that of going, I've lost all this time. I've lost all this money, relationship, and whatever it is. And I think I had to learn over the years that, hey, well, it wasn't working for me. It didn't serve me, and I just need to just almost run in the other direction.
And I think when you get to that point, sometimes as well, you feel like there's a like birthing who you are, like there's a new you being evolved and changed, and that is going to come with losses because you can't say.
Some people won't be happy with it.
And I've found that to be true, very true.
Yeah.
And how do you deal with that? How do you deal with all those changes?
It's a learning process. So I'll let you know when I've really achieved that. But I have found that, you know, I have to remind myself, I think, because I think quite similarly, I think our personalities are quite similar in that I'm easily swayed. Like I will make my decision. Like just the other day, I was walking down the road with a friend and I was like, should we go this way? And they said, we should go to the right. And I wanted to go to the left because I thought it would be quicker. And I knew it would be quicker, right? I knew it because I've done this walk before. I'm not stupid, right? And we go the other way. And I was I was in a frumpy mood. I was like, right, we should have gone. It took significantly longer. And by significantly, I mean like 2 minutes. So like, I wanted to be right, right? There was a moment where I was like, why don't I just like say that I wanted to go this way and that this would have been more beneficial, right? And so the point is that I'm always learning. I'm always understanding. Oh, I still need to be reminded that I still have a voice. I can still advocate. I can still do things, and it's not the end of the world. Like some things are not the end of the world. Some things might be, but I don't know if that answers the question.
Yeah, no, it does. It does. I think even like you saying that story of the left and right, it's even reminding me of myself at work. Sometimes I'm like, I don't want to be doing this, but because I know I need to be doing it, and it's part of the deadline or whatever. I'm like, okay, cool. But recently, I didn't have like there was a situation at work where I needed to voice out things, and I was like, I noticed everyone in my team was very much like my old self, where I would just be quiet, don't say anything, just observe things, and know that someone needs to speak up, but not speak up. And then this time around, I decided, okay, I'm going to be the one to speak up because no one else is doing it. And it brought change, and it did bring change, but the person who saw the change and was like, this isn't like you. What's going on? I'm like, well, something needs to change because everyone else is frustrated and is just masking themselves. So something needs to shift. And if nothing is said, nothing's going to be shifted. So unless we want to build a team continuously with this frustration, building, and then people leaving, you might as well address the issue straight on rather than going around the bush. But the fact that he had an idea of me before me speaking up meant that actually I've made a shift here. I've not just stuck with my self pre decision making where it's like, okay, I'm just gonna and fuck with this nonsense. Instead I'm gonna speak up. And when I did that, I also noticed a change within the team because they all were like, "Thanks for standing up for us," because they didn't have the power to stand up for themselves. But since that incident, other people have also started like speaking up because they recognize, oh, it's not that much of a big difference to just be open and honest about how you're feeling about something. Have you ever experienced anything like that?
I don't know, but that is a very interesting story because like where you're hesitant to like make a change and kind of voice something that's quite visibly against the grain. You did it, which then encouraged other people to be like, hold on a sec, like, what's going on here?
What's going on?
But that's so cool though. But that even though you're probably petrified and it's like this is very not a Dion thing, and I hate this, you still did it. But then it also influenced other people to then do that as well. And I think that's also that creates change because then it's like, oh, I've seen someone do it. Okay, maybe I just need to see someone do it, and now I believe I can do it myself. That's really cool. Yeah,
it was really nice to watch because then you realize, me being my authentic self means someone else could be their authentic self.
Yeah,
and it's not judged as harshly as they thought it would be.
Anything? Yes, I think I actually did. Yeah, so there was a period where I felt I wasn't showing up authentically right, and I ended up I met with a friend of mine, and I was like, we're talking, and at the end of it, I went in going, okay, I'm just gonna shut up. Like, I'm exhausted from doing this, right? I'm exhausted from not showing up. Went and saw them, and it was a lovely time and lovely catch up. At the end of it, they said something that really struck a chord in me, and they said, it was so nice to see you, like to actually see you and get to know you. And I hadn't heard that for I don't think ever. But and I think to hear that I was like, oh, okay. All right, okay, there are things that are decent here, I'm not an awful person. Like but I think for me to hear somebody else say that to me was quite healing in that it kind of said, oh, you're okay just as you are. You don't need to show up as anyone else. I just want actually to know you. And I think for me, when I heard that, I was like, oh, okay, I kind of get what it means to show up. Like, If you show up as yourself, somebody else, and interesting in that conversation, because I was the first one to extend that hand, they reciprocated it, and they also felt seen and heard in the conversation. And so it was quite a beautiful meeting of two people of going, oh, we see each other now.
Yeah.
Whereas maybe we were a little bit more covered and maybe protective. And we didn't lose anything. We didn't lose. In fact, we gained more of a friendship and a relationship from it.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
It's so easy to step into like chameleon mode. So easy. But how do you kind of like spot when you are going into like masking or
You know what? I realized that I've noticed that, and it's taken me a long time. And when I say a long time, I'm not like I'm like 10 years. Like,
yeah.
I've had to like learn this. Like this is a journey, and it will continue till the day I die, most likely. The kind of what I've noticed is that if it doesn't resonate with me, if I don't feel like this is in line with who I am, my values, how I see the world, how I want to present myself in the world, that kind of thing. If it doesn't align with that, and if I don't feel it resonate, I don't touch it. Yeah. Like I don't even like. But that's taken time, a lot of work, a lot of internal work. And so I think it's learning what feels like you. And here's an example. I used to do a lot of baking a couple of years ago, and people would be like, "Oh, it's really good. Can you make me a birthday cake?" Right, and I'd make the birthday cake, and they'd say, "Oh, can I give you money?" And I'd be like, "Oh yeah, £5." I'd undersell myself, um, and £5, if you think about it, is not a lot for a cake, right? And I would put in like hours of work into this, and I would purchase the ingredients myself. I didn't have enough money, but I still did. I have enough money, like, it's great. I want them to say that I'm great and all this stuff. Yeah, there was a lot of other motivations on the side of it, right? And this became a thing where people would be like, "Oh, Elliot's making these cakes. Can you make some more?" And like, there were a few times where people hired me to like do like a bake sale, and it was exhausting. And there was a point where I had to stop doing it because I was like, "I'm not sleeping. I hate this. I actually resent you because you're making me do this, and I don't want to do this." But the thing that I had to be like was like, yes, I like doing this, but only in small spurts, like only in small, like kind of when I feel like I want to do it. And they were asking me to do these things, right? And the point of like going, okay, I think we've hit the limit was going, I don't feel like I can give to this as myself, and I feel like I'm now enslaved to you, and I feel like I'm having to live your expectations, and this isn't what I want. And I had to kind of, it took me a long time to learn it because once, of course, they come back like, can you do this? Be like, yes, I can. I never learned my lesson. It took me years to do that. Now I don't do it. Now I'm just like, if someone asks me to make something, I'm like, no, I've stopped doing that. Sorry. But that took a while to do, right?
Even that story itself shows that you're not giving your whole self. You're creating flavor.
Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. Even, well, that was it. Yeah.
It was crazy because it seems like we think we're doing it to like please the other person, but really you end up like changing that person by your actions. Yeah,
and you become more you begin to focus more on them. You begin to forget really the essence of you. You sacrifice yourself, and in sacrificing yourself, you kind of go, well, I guess I'm not that important. And if I'm, if somebody says something nice to me, then maybe that's worth the sacrificing. But at the end of the day, they walk away happy and satisfied, and at the end of the day, you're exhausted, and you kind of go, well, what was it for? Yeah. And not showing up as yourself will cost you something. Whatever it is, it will cost. It costs to keep things tied down, to keep things silent. There is a cost to it, whether that's your own mental health, your own physical health. There are people who they've not said things to people for years, and it just the toxicity is in their body. You see it. It's a thing of like, if you don't there needs to be a way for you to live safely. And I know that people can't do that all the time. I know that, people in their own situations. And if possible, finding that balance, I hate using the word balance, but it is a balance of going, okay, I'm going to do this, and there may be a cost to it, there may be a weight to it, but it's also in tune and in line with me, and it feels right at this moment, and this is what I'm wanting to, whether it's a job, career, etc. Like I think sometimes we just need to try, just try the door, test the door, and see what happens.
And I think a lot of the time we're scared to do that because it's goes so against what other people think sometimes.
Yeah.
For example, like I know for me, one thing that I liked, I like knew I liked doing when I was younger was dancing. But like when I grew older, it was kind of like, oh, like, do you have time for that? There's so much like notions around what you should be doing with your time. I was like, no, actually, I want to do that. I'm going to do it. And I started like learning new things, and it was like, oh, okay, this actually gives me joy, so I'm going to continue doing it, regardless of what other people think. But I think sometimes we can get so caught up with what others think of us rather than pleasing ourselves. Really.
Yeah.
So, like, in your practice, how do you help people really build, or what kinds of things do you think people should be looking out for if they are looking for help in that area?
Well, I think many things, but I have found that there's a regular theme of people that I work with who have perhaps struggled to be and exist in whatever their capacity that is, whatever life stage they're at, and to even just reflect and go, you weren't able to do that when you were that age, or you weren't able to do that. There's grief in there, there's loss in there, there's a reckoning that needs to happen of like, oh yeah, I didn't get this. Okay. And that's painful. That's to sit and acknowledge that is really hard. But there's also a freedom that comes from that at the end, which is I wasn't able to do that, but now as an adult, now in this period, whatever it is, I can gift myself that, and I don't need to ask for permission. I don't need to, get my parents to co-sign it, like whatever. Like there's a certain freedom once you kind of push through that, and so showing up authentically can look very different for people. It can mean many things, whether it's career, relationship, dress, how you dress, all these things, right? And I think the thing that I hope I'm able to help people to do is to move that needle more towards them and go, right, so how can we get it more towards you? What is more in line with you? How can you become more of you? Maybe uncover some things, maybe get rid of some things. And, kind of go, that's somebody else's choice for you. That's someone else's belief for you. What do you think? Oh, you don't know what you think. Okay, well, let's talk about it. Let's uncover, let's do. And so the process of growing and becoming more yourself is not a linear path. It is very much a kind of there are waves and kind of little hidden things about it, but it is possible, and it takes time and it takes practice as well. I don't think you can wake up and go, I'm gonna just show as my most authentic self. Maybe you can, and maybe people do that. I don't know. It sounds a little bit exhausting though. But it's almost like a muscle. You've got to exercise it. You've got to learn. Okay, this works. This doesn't work. This doesn't feel aligned. Okay, I'm gonna let that go.
Yeah, and sometimes you'll be doing something for a while that feels right, and then at some point it might not feel right. But just trusting yourself as well to learn with the time and the process and go with the journey and enjoy the process rather than sticking to one thing just because it seems and it works. Allowing yourself to explore.
Because I think there is an element of what you said before, which is with your work stuff, is like when you said something, other people were willing to do it, and I think there is a theme of like if you're authentic and you show up, somebody else will see that and they go, oh, I can do that too.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Like, I see you being a bit weird. Okay, that's okay. I can do that too. I like being weird. Whatever. Not saying that you're weird. But you know what I mean? Where it's like, oh, they're wearing this particular color that I don't think I could ever pull off. But now that I see them wearing it, I'm going to try it. Or
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, that's an awesome like thing. So if people wanted to work with you, Elliot, how could they find you?
You can find me on the Instagram at whole self therapy. There's underscores and all of that. Whole underscore self underscore therapy underscore. Or go to wholeselftherapy.co.uk and you can find that's my website and you can find me and see if you want to work together. And we can work towards your most authentic and whole self. It may take time. I have time and I've got some questions, and if you're able to and you're willing to, we can do that.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So guys, I will put all the details in the description below so you can reach out to Elliot if you feel like you'd like to have a conversation, if you wanted to learn more about yourself and get more to your whole self. So thank you so much for watching, and yes, just make sure that you're looking after yourself because you deserve it.